Whoa, 2 of these in 1 month? I only did 1 last year, jeez. Yep, time for another rambly-pambly discussion video. I should just start calling them that. Today I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk about Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. It kinda felt right since one of my first videos was a discussion video about Uncharted 4. One of these days I'll review this game, along with the rest of the Uncharted series. Again, it's in my intro, it would kinda be bad not to review Uncharted eventually. Maybe next year if you guys really want me to. Anyway, did you want more Uncharted 4? If so, buy Lost Legacy. That was it. This is a short video. Lost Legacy is clearly a smaller, shorter project designed to simply give us more Uncharted without featuring Nathan Drake, and it does so pretty well considering it features an underdeveloped villain from 4 in Nadine, and a prominent character that was totally ignored in 4 in Chloe. Yes, Nathan Drake is mentioned, but only once or twice in passing. This is entirely focused on the two ladies. Also, spoiler warning, there might be some very minor plot points I touch on, so if you don't want anything about the game's story given away, I'll see you next video. The game takes place in India, where Chloe and Nadine are trying to find the legendary Tusk of Ganesh. Naturally, a power-hungry war criminal also wants the legendary Tusk of Ganesh, this time an Indian revolutionary named Asav. I've got to give Naughty Dog some credit on this one. Asav essentially copies the role of the big bads in both Uncharted 1 and 2, and yet he outdoes both. Unlike either of those bosses, he pops around more frequently, or at least he feels like he does. He has more of an impact throughout the game beyond being big and bad, and he's got some personality to him. I actually really enjoyed Asav as the villain here. I didn't even mind that Sam returns at a certain point in the game. He's somewhat neutered in this game to keep the spotlight on Chloe and Nadine, which honestly works for me because I really didn't care for Sam in Uncharted 4 to begin with. He plays off of both of them quite well at least, and his addition is mostly inoffensive. What I didn't fully enjoy, and I'm gonna pick my words carefully here, is that Chloe is suddenly Indian. I'm not saying this in a way that is supposed to be at all offensive, it's just sort of off-putting. Naughty Dog likes to be very forward-thinking with its portrayal of race and gender in games, especially in the Neil Druckmann era of writing. I applaud that. I think it's a step the gaming industry absolutely needed to take. However, I feel the approach they've taken is sometimes a little poorly written in a way that, to me, makes some of these changes feel ignorant. Chloe was, at least from my interpretation, designed as an Australian woman that existed as a strong and cocky counterpart to the more grounded American Elena. I personally never saw her character models or her promotional artwork scream or even hint that she was part Indian. By the time Lost Legacy was revealed, her character model had been updated from the PS3 era to a better PS4 model, but she was slightly changed around to fit her newfound heritage. Her dad, as we've come to learn in Lost Legacy, was actually Indian, and he was looking for the very same ruins that Chloe is looking for now. Chloe also now carries around this little plot-important Ganesh trinket on her that she says is her stress ball that her father gave to her decades ago. Yes, it is certainly plausible that we've never heard about this until just now, just as it's plausible that Nate never once mentioned that he has a long-lost brother in an internal monologue or in his journal or whatever, but really? That just feels like awfully flimsy writing to me. Maybe I'm just missing some long-hidden design document that shows Chloe was always part Indian back in 2009, and if so, scratch all of this. I think for the most part they do weave her Indian heritage into the narrative well, it's just that the change itself came out of nowhere, as if they wanted to have Chloe in the game and flesh her out, but also pack in diversity, but there were only room for 2 leads and Nadine's already been set up as South African, so hey, Chloe's Indian now. Again, as a pasty white guy, this is almost certainly going to come off in a way that I don't intend. My issue is mainly with the sudden revelation of something like this. It feels tacked on rather than organically introduced. Anyway, now that I'm probably racist, let's talk about the gameplay. It's the same sort of game that Uncharted 4 was. There's still tall grass to hide in, the option of stealth, however weak an option it may be, and so on. There are also silenced pistols added to the mix that help make the stealth slightly more viable. The key changes to the game are that there's now a lockpicking mechanic that'll get used a handful of times to open some chests, find some secret goodies, and so on, and the open world chapter. If you played through Uncharted 4, there was this chapter in Madagascar that was sort of this contained open world segment with a linear progression. Lost Legacy's 4th chapter is that, but expanded even further and given some non-linearity to boot. There are 3 major shrines that you have to go and unlock to move on, along with 11 little challenge areas sprinkled around too. Each of these 3 shrines played pretty differently, and it almost gave me a light Zelda vibe. I'm not quite sure why that is. It felt neat, I liked it, but doing it more than 3 times might have stretched the concept too far, so I'm glad they did just stick with 3. The 11 smaller challenge areas each reward you with a token. Collect all 11 and you're granted access to a special area in this mini overworld which gives you the Queen's Bracelet. This item is so cool and I wish all of the Uncharted games had this now. When you have it equipped, your controller will make a noise, vibrate, and glow when you're near a hidden treasure. This means that you don't need to use a damn guide if you want to find all those damn treasures, and it actually encouraged me to go back and play some more of the game after I had already beaten it. Usually the games are one and done endeavors for me, so that's a very effective addition. As a whole, and this will be kind of weird to say considering what I said about Uncharted 4 last year, Uncharted Lost Legacy sort of feels like the Uncharted 2 to Uncharted 4's Uncharted 1. Considering I said last year that Uncharted 4 was the Majora's Mask to Uncharted 2's Ocarina of Time, this means that Uncharted Lost Legacy is, well, actually I didn't get this far in the metaphor, I just really wanted to say the word Uncharted a lot and confuse all of you. I still do believe that Uncharted 4 might just outpace 2 in terms of overall quality. When I say Lost Legacy feels like the 2 to 4's 1, I mean that it cranks everything the hell up to 11. The set pieces in this game are ridiculous. The giant armored truck that Naughty Dog loves to use returns here, and I actually said out loud, "Why is there always a truck?" which made me laugh after I realized what I said. There's a big ridiculous train segment at some point, which actually might be better than the original train segment in Uncharted 2. In general, the subdued style of 4 is out the window, and honestly, that works here. The tone is so jokey, and Chloe is the same over-the-top character that Drake was in 1 through 3 that it all just works for me. There are serious moments, don't get me wrong, but this game is so self-aware it hurts. They reference the Marco Polo joke from Uncharted 2, which again brings me back to that comparison between 2 and Lost Legacy. Those big crates that Naughty Dog had a hard-on for in The Last of Us and Uncharted 4 return, but only briefly before Chloe and Nadine agree to never use one again. Which is made even better when Sam joins the crew later on and almost immediately finds a crate. They still didn't directly acknowledge that grappling hooks didn't exist until Sam suddenly reappeared in 4, but you can't have it all, I guess. No, seriously though, how did Nate discover 3 lost cities without ever actually needing one, and then suddenly as soon as Sam comes back a friggin' rope is more important than oxygen? The game might have been made by the Naughty Dog B team, but that also gave them the room to just have fun, and I really appreciated that. Speaking of the B-Team comment, this game is certainly not up to the same standards of polish that 4 was held to. I ran into a good number of glitches, some funny, some not, and while the game is gorgeous, it'd be tough to match the insane tier of quality that 4 had. Unless it ran at 60 frames per second. Oh, shut up. The game's $40 though, so I really wouldn't expect it to be the second coming of Crysis. All in all, it's not exactly the must-own that I would say that 2 and 4 are, but it's something I would probably value above 1, and certainly value above 3. I clocked in at almost exactly 7 hours of game time total, and that includes me doing all of the optional stuff in the open world chapter. That means that it might just be the shortest Uncharted game to date, but it arguably has the least amount of blatant fluff too, so that's not a bad thing. If you're a big Uncharted junkie, pick it up if you haven't already. If you like Uncharted but you don't love it, give it a look down the road when you're looking for a game to play. If you've never played Uncharted before, I would not start with this one. If you have the money, go ahead and pick up the Nathan Drake collection first. That game's only like $10 nowadays. And if you really enjoy that, then move on to 4, and if you like 4, then move on to Lost Legacy. If you made it this far, thanks for watching and listening to me ramble for about 10 minutes or so. I'll see you guys in the next one.